Hey everyone, I'm Kevin. Welcome to Verbum Day, where I share with you my thoughts and reflections on the day's gospel. Today's gospel is Matthew 20, verses 17 through 28. The church gives us, you'll see a theme, something that we touched on yesterday, and is, I would say, a great Lenten theme as we look inside ourselves during the season of Lent, as we try to die more to our flesh and to our desires, or at least bring them in proper order and be people who are more after the heart of God. I believe all that comes into play here, so let's dig in. Verse 17. As Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 aside by themselves, and he said to them on the way, "Behold, we're going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and hand him over to the Gentiles to be mocked and scourged and crucified, and he will be raised on the third day." Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee approached him with her sons and did him homage, wishing to ask him for something. He said to her, "What do you wish?" She answered him, "Command that these two sons of mine sit, one at your right, the other at your left, in your kingdom." Jesus said in reply, "You don't know what you're asking. Can you drink the cup that I am going to drink?" They said to him, "We can." He replied, "My cup you will indeed drink, but to sit at my right hand and at my left, this is not mine to give, but is for those who it has been prepared by my Father." When the 10 heard this, they became indignant at the two brothers. But Jesus summoned them and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and the great ones make their authority over them felt. But it shall not be so among you. Rather, whoever wishes to be great among you shall be your servant. Whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave. Just so the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, so this starts off right, pretty easy and light and fluffy, with Jesus telling the dudes that he's going to be killed again, right? Again, I think it's interesting to put ourselves in the place of the 12, or one of the 12, or even better, a parent or something like that. We're walking to Jerusalem, and it's like, cool, hey, did you catch Netflix last night? Oh my gosh, Westworld's coming back. I know, And it's like, oh, by the way, where we're going, I shall be killed and crucified, right? And so I would just be like, okay, Jesus, whatever you say. And I would really be thinking about the life decisions and choices I had made to follow this guy. I can't imagine at this point many of them thought that they had made an awesome decision, but maybe they have, right? So actually, I think I'm thinking about that wrong, because I definitely would think about it like James and John's mom, right? So the sons of Zebedee are James and John. And so what happens next is their mama comes over and pays homage to Jesus. Another version says that she kneels down and he says, "What is your wish?" Right? Interesting that she goes, "That these two sons of mine you would command will sit at your right and at your left in your kingdom." Okay. I disagree with the 10. It says, then the 10 got indignant at the 2. Okay, first, pause. 10, listen up. Some of you out there do not have a Southern mama. Apparently these 10 didn't, and James and John did. But like, if my mama were still with us, she would have pulled this with Jesus 100%. She was not stepping in and going, okay, I'm not going to forbid my boys from going. You say you're going to be crucified. I'm sure that she's heard that, even though it said he took them over to the side by themselves. She's probably heard it. If she's on the way to Jerusalem with them, she's a part of that inner circle. Also, this is the third time that Jesus has said this. I can assure you, even without Twitter, right, and even without cell phones, news travels fast, even in the first century, okay? So I imagine my mom And I think my mom would do a bunch of like, oh no, you ain't, and like embarrass me and cause a scene. And that's really not, in my opinion, what James and John's mama does here. First, look at her posture. She pays Jesus homage, okay? That's the key here. It's really, really beautiful because, again, my opinion, you're talking about a mama that knows that she could be losing her two sons. And this Jesus has been right about everything so far, right? And in a minute, he's going to tell them, you are going to share or drink from my cup, which is no bueno. And we'll get there in a second. So she has to be privy to the danger of the coming events and situation. Or, at least she has an imagination. Can you imagine some of the helicopter parents that are around today? I'm sure none of you are that. How they would have handled this situation. So she doesn't jump in and go, hey, no, my sons aren't doing this. But I believe she has the natural reaction of a mother, which is, I know that the seat of the right is honor and even left. And I understand the picture and the visual of, royalty in a royal court. And maybe I'm way off. Maybe she was just completely self-absorbed and that's what she wanted because she wanted to brag about it at the old ladies bingo or plunko or whatever we play now, or in the first century. But see, I think something different's going on. She's like, look, I'm giving you their lives. So can you promise me they will be close to you? And maybe she is asking for the seats of honor, but wouldn't a good mom want this to be worth it, right? Not to mention just first century culture. Before we lambast her for being self-centered and thinking her kids, her honor students are smarter than your honor students, let's really try to imagine being in that place. I think she's grabbing at straws. I think she's terrified, if you ask me. So what does Jesus respond? He's like, look, first he looks and he says, that's not for me to decide. But he goes to James and John at this point, hey, can you drink of my cup? Let me get the exact words. He says, you do not know what you're asking. Can you drink the cup that I'm going to drink? They said to him, we can. And he was like, my cup you will indeed drink, but to sit at my right hand is not for me. So he's predicting that they're going to be martyred for their faith, for following Jesus. They're going to follow him in his footsteps, even into death. Okay. And he's like, I appreciate that. That is amazing. But this is not mine to give. And then he goes back to the old tried and true. Hey, we're on our way to the end here. So I need to make sure y'all get this. When y'all are having all of this earthly authority and establishing this church, you need to remember, okay, to not lord it over one another and the people like the Gentiles do. And he said, this is beautiful. He said, whoever is the servant of all, okay, will be first. Now, the word servant there means to execute the will and commands of another, okay? So you're literally living for someone. You're laying down your life for a friend, which he says, in John, right? You're literally saying, not my dreams, but your dreams. I'm laying my life down and picking you up. And of course that makes sense. That's exactly who we want to be first, right? And then he uses a different word and he says, but for whoever wants to be first, they'll be a slave. Does it say they shall be your slave? And that word is slave, right? And if you think about it, that makes sense, right? Because people who want to be first all the time, that's what they're trying to do. Please everybody, They're chameleons. They don't know themselves. All they want is power. All they want is status. And we saw that in yesterday's gospel, right? And then he ends with, just so the Son of Man did not come to serve, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. And he says, just follow me, do what I do. It will not be long here before he takes off his garments, gets down to his fruit of the looms, gets under the table in the floor and washes the filthy, filthy feet of his disciples. And then he says, follow my example. So may you and I and all of us this season of Lent serve more. That's what almsgiving is all about. May we have a spirit and a heart to serve one another, lift each other up. May we be servants of all, executing the will, the desires of our brothers and sisters before our own. Grace and peace be with y'all.